Batman. What more can honestly, this one's going to be another short one. I can already tell because what the hell do I add to talking about Batman that I haven't already? That hasn't all or sorry, that I let me rephrase that. That hasn't already been said by like a billion other people, right? Especially this type of interpretation of Batman, which is of course the Kevin Conroy type of Batman, right? Like there's nothing I can really add to the discussion of Batman, right? I mean, I could talk about I could talk about the psychology of Batman and whether or not he's just as crazy as everybody else is, which is kind of part of the theme of this game and of this very game. I could talk about Batman, Batman from a psychological perspective, heck, like the Lore Runner did, and just kind of talk about the mentality of Batman. And, but I think what I want to talk about is the diversity of Batman. Now, before you go jumping down my throat, let me define that real quick because that's become a bad word these days. Thanks, Hollywood. I don't mean it in the Hollywood sense because when Hollywood says diversity, they mean pandering. When everybody else says diversity, they actually mean diversity. Now, usually that's meant to be inclusive of different groups, such as, people of color or the LGBT community or what have you. But no, what I mean is that I mean that in a similar sense to that with Batman, but more so in the sense of different interpretations. You want to know why there have been so many successful takes on Batman over the years, even within the time frame I've been alive, in which there's been like three successful TV shows that have featured him with three literally different takes on him. Well, three three with different flavors and whatnot. It's because Batman is a malleable character. As long as you keep the core central ideas in check, central core ideas at present, you can basically take Batman in whatever direction you want, right? You know, the death of the parents, pushing him to keep others from being interrupted by a cat that and take a hint. A tragedy in the past in his past that you know pushes him to dress up as a bat and fight crime so that no 8-year-old will ever lose their parents because of a punk with a gun. That was always the idea, right? That's why he pushed him. Now, granted, he needed a lot of money for that. It needed a lot of money and a lot of years of training in that, but that makes perfect sense, right? Because that is kind of in many ways that's kind of Batman's superpower. He's super rich. But even comparing him to real life billionaires as has been pointed out by people like Kara, for example, is laughable because Bruce Wayne will actually pay his friend employees. And hell, in Batman the Animated Series, which is what this is kind of the well this game is drawing from. Batman even yelled at Bruce even yelled at one of his people for destroying for basically trying to destroy a rainforest to get profits. Either shut it down or you're gone. Right? And then it, you know now, what's funny is that I always assumed that this was a story set within the DCAU. That obviously doesn't work because we know how the DCAU's Tale of Batman ends. We know where that goes. We've seen its end point, right? So that doesn't really work. But for some reason, I always mentally thought of this being able to slot in very nicely in the DCAU. it's not as cut and dry and really doesn't have as much its cohesion. But what's funny is that Arkham Asylum was actually shut down within the time frame of the new Batman Adventures at some point. Yeah, because that's actually one of the points. Joker literally takes over Arkham Asylum, but unlike in this game where he takes it over when it's still active, he took it over in the DCAU. He took it over after it was already shut down, right? And considering the unpredictability of the Joker, I imagine somebody wouldn't even suspect that he would turn Arkham Asylum into his own personal home at some point. What a perfect place to hide, where he always got sent. It's a place he's familiar in. It's a place he'd be comfortable in. Weirdly enough, but no, this is clearly its own canon. Don't mistake me. You could finagle it to make it fit, but this is clearly within. This is clearly not within the DCAU canon, right? This is not, the Arkham games are not how the Joker died, kind of thing. And this is, and the Arkham games are not how the DCAU Batman retired, right? Kind of thing. But anyways, to get back to my diversity point, there's so many different interpretations you can take with Batman, right? You want him to be campy like in the '60s? It fits. You can make that fit. Hell, Batman the Brave and the Bold was a fantastic example of that. That Batman Brave and the Bold was campy as hell, but that was the point. It was supposed to be a send up to the old Silver Age, into the Silver Age, right? Where Batman would get into wacky adventures all over the goddamn place. Yes, right? And what made that work was the entire world around Batman was zany and wacky and campy, but he was still deadly serious. And so that contrast made that work, right? It actually made that show really work. And yet at his core, Batman was still Batman. And in very much and this I should turn my monitor off. And this game, in many, many, many ways, is the antithesis of this. It is kind of the thesis statement, because this game really digs into the psychology of Batman, right? I mean, I could talk about the Scarecrow sections. I could talk about how I was in the same camp that it was playing the game. And when the game over screen during the third Scarecrow section said use the middle stick to dodge Joker's gun, I actually did look down. This game got me in that regard. Ark Arkham Asylum was now this game didn't score very as high for me as I thought it would, but that makes sense because Arkham Asylum is was always the foundation. And make no mistake, okay, this game scored. I am drawing a blank on what it scored. Give me a moment. My monitor is going back on for a second. My apologies. Apologies. Arkham Asylum, you scored an overall score of plus 64, achieved with a plus 39, a net plus 39 into story, and a plus 25 to gameplay. Which, if you give me a moment to check, that puts it at. That puts it in the number 15 slot currently for my overall reviews. Meaning that there are 14 games that I have reviewed that are above it. I want you to understand something, though, but understand in one simple thing. I have reviewed 36 games to date. Now, that sounds like it's more in the middle, and it is. It is closer to the middle, but at the same time, that's still in the top, in the upper half. Now, obviously, that's going to decrease as I review more and more games. Like, for the record, from my perspective, this is before I play Trails Through Daybreak, for example. This is before I audit Final Fantasy VII, for example. Although that's more so just going to shift FF7's position more than anything else. But for the curious, well, yeah, and it's about 89 nine spots below FF7, the original FF7, as it currently sits. But again, when you stand up against titans and you still manage to do well, that's worthy of some note because let me just read you my list here, okay? And considering some of these I think you might actually understand. Trails of Cold, my top. I'll start with my top rated game, and I'll just go down the list to all the way down for you. Cold Steel 3, Final Fantasy FF9, FF6, Hicks Trails into Reverie, Cold Steel 1, FF7, Heaven, Sky 2, FF5, Mario 3, FF4, Trails to Azure, Cold Steel 4, FF12, and in Digimon Story Cyber Sleuth. Now, some people might balk at that last one, but honestly, Batman Arkham Asylum didn't hold up as well as upon a revisit as I thought. And again, it still stands up with it's still in consideration. It's still within my top 20, which I would consider to be a boon, right? Arkham Asylum is one of those games where it gets hurt by its sequel. I think is the way I want to phrase that because, to be blunt, it is. It is hurt by the fact that Arkham City exists. Not so much Arkham Knight, but Arkham City definitely took all of the foundations that Asylum set up and just ran with it. Asylum hooked, and walked tall. Oh, let me make it clear, so that Arkham City could just be run and be epic and be gold. And I think that's part of the thing. Eventually, I will probably review Arkham City. I'm probably not going to bother with Knight, just because I've seen the storyline of that one, and that one's just bleh. And don't even ask me about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. That's a whole lot of fuck that, you know. But regardless, I think what makes Arkham Asylum work is the same reason why I think Batman works. They really sat down and they hammered out what they wanted this interpretation of Batman to be, and they made it so that you would feel that as the player, right? It detective mode, with detective mode and everything. So you can literally have it be that, for example, detective mode can actually help you, so you don't necessarily have to, be completely, 100% always he's on the top of your game kind of thing, right? Because, obviously this is still a game and not everybody's going to have the detective skills of Batman, right? And that also runs into the other problem, right? If you're going to generate like puzzles and that at because you want people to feel like Batman. Well, the thing is that how hard do you make those puzzles without it being, without it alienating, maybe the ones that, you know aren't billionaires in bat suits who it's with ridiculous with ridiculous minds and tech, with a ridiculous mind, ridiculous tech, and whatever else, right? Sorry, I'm cleaning off my keyboard here because it gets dusty, and I like to clean off the dirt once in a while. Anyways, uh, the thing about Arkham Asylum though is it understands Batman. Now, that's the question. Do I think that somebody who new to Batman could jump into Arkham Asylum and not be lost? Well, admittedly, the game does help you out with the interview tapes and that, so you can get a feel for some of the characters, and that's actually what all of the bios are, which kind of generates a pseudo plot hole with Hugo Strange, because the bio says that that Batman is aware that Hugo Strange knows his identity, and that's one of the things he fears. But then in City, it's a shock to the system that Strange knows he's Batman, right? Hate. Granted, I know that's kind of I know that's kind of a major kind of a major plot hole, but it doesn't bug me as much as you might think. And the reason it doesn't bug me that much, that if I may be so bold, is because they do good stuff with it, right? Not to say that the story of Asylum is bad, because it's not. The story of Asylum is actually good, you know. Oh, right. Even though they literally Batman has to literally say that he's been planning this. Now, the funny thing is, there's another part of this that I actually kind of like. How would you react if I told you that the Joker is not the main villain of this game? Now I know what you're. Now I know what the response to that's going to be. I can imagine what the response to that is. Like, but what? The fuck are you talking about? Oh, Blue Wolf. Joker's the one that's at the head of everything for basically the entire game. He's the one that pulls all of this crap. How is he not the main villain? Well, he is one of the main villains. But no, my pick for the actual no really like seriously if she wasn't so fucking stupid, none of this would have happened, is Dr. Young. Dr. Young Dr. Young's an idiot. Let's just be blunt. And no, it's not because of her gender. Like, even if Dr. Young was a man, I'd be calling him a fucking dumbass is regardless. Because stupidity knows no gender. Let's just be honest about that, okay? Hey, she isn't, because I have seen some very smart, or I have met some very smart women, and I have met some really fucking stupid women. And I have met some really smart men, and I have met some really fucking stupid men. Trust me. Trust me. Intellect does not matter when gender. Sorry, I'm rephrasing this wrong. Gender does not factor in to intellect at all. But the reason why I say Dr. Young is so fucking stupid, and I will now turn that off again. The reason why I say Dr. Young is so fucking stupid is because, to paraphrase Linkara, why were you experimenting with Venom unless you were trying to create an army of Bane monsters? No, seriously, like, because that's what Doctor Young is doing. Spoilers, I guess. I'll probably put a spoiler warning just right at the beginning because I'll just get right into it. But yeah, no, there's almost nothing I can really say about this. Now, granted, Doctor Young is not the only arrogant frickin' jackass that's in here. Like, you listen to the frickin' the fucking repetitive advertisement line in the medical center, and you just feel the arrogance, not so much from the dude reading the script, because he's obviously just as a mouthpiece. A mouthpiece. He's for a commercial, but there's just so much arrogance on display, right? Just all around. Obviously, you would expect it from characters like Ivy, like Joker, um, Harley Quinn to a bit of a lesser extent, Riddler. Like, seriously, oh god, don't even get me started on Riddler's arrogance. Riddler, if there's one character I could claim as the most arrogant in the entire Arkham trilogy, it's Riddler, which tracks because Riddler has always been so goddamn full of himself. Has always been so fucking full of himself, right? And in some cases, okay, yeah, I can see the point. But then there's, like, for example, the question: if you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Oh, that's simple. It's because society rewards the stupid, the dickish, and the criminal. I wish I was kidding, but I'm not. Sadly, but I don't want to get into that. I don't want to go there. But what I do want to talk about, though, is all throughout this game, Batman is constantly pushed to his limits, physically, mentally, well, not so much emotionally, but again, this is actually something I will bring up if I ever talk about City in the future. Batman maintains his humanity in this episode. In this episode, wow, in this game, he maintains his humanity, right? He is the guy who will literally fight the Joker after he takes over City Hall, which apparently was super easy because Batman claims he gave up almost without a fight, right? And that's why he goes with Joker as they take him down, and doesn't just leave the second he throws. They put Joker on that restraint thing they used to wheel him in. And um, you know, Batman. So Batman tangles with the Joker, brings him to Arkham Asylum, goes in with him. Joker breaks out. Batman starts fighting goons, chasing after Joker. Deals with Zaz. As goes through the events again, and keeps on taking out goons all over the place as he's chasing Joker. Dodges a freaking elevator being dropped on him. Climbs up the old-fashioned way. He goes all over the island. Deals with goons. Even finds Joker's lab. Deals with the Titan goons. Goons fights Bane. I mean, all of this shit. He deals with all of this shit. He basically deals with a bunch of with a swarm of goons, and frickin' effectively a bunch of Banes, and a souped up Poison Ivy as well that frickin' attacks in like a kaiju sized plant. And he does all of this crap, and yet right at the end, right before the credits roll, well, Gordon gets a call on the radio that's saying Two-Face is robbing the bank. What does Batman do? Hops in the Batwing and heads off to go deal with that. Holy shit. you know? Like, that's just. you know? Never mind all the shit he puts up with in Arkham City, you know? How much of that you want to say is in one night, or, within the span of 12 hours that protocol, between when he gets thrown in and when Protocol 10 kicks off. That's crazy. That's just crazy to me. Easy to me, right? And a lot of his actions are a lot less. Batman's actions in City are a lot less excusable. I'm probably, for example, going to give a negative to who Bat Dick, and that's the negative I'm going to call him. That's what I'm going to call it. I'm going to call it the Bat Dick negative. Negative. And yes, I will give full credit to Linkara for that because, yeah, no. Like, I'm sorry, Batman is an asshole in City. He is. Ugh, just what he does to Freeze. Granted, Freeze is a bit of an idiot too, but again, and it's like, I'm I'm probably gonna give some negatives for cutscene incompetence when it comes to City, just because of how many events only happen because we have to have, how many things kick off because we have to have the characters have it's because we just have to have the idiots shove the characters shove the idiot ball up their ass. That's for 5 minutes, you know. But whatever. But whatever. That's something to get into City. I don't really have that much to talk about when it comes to Asylum specifically, because a lot of what I have to say is basically just stuff that gets carried forward. I will say I do like a lot of the gameplay elements of this game, but I'd be lying if I said City didn't refine them. Admittedly, I've spent more time with City, so going back to this one was a bit on the rough side. It took some getting used to because there was just something kind of stiff. It felt kind of stiff combat wise. Now, granted, back in 2009, this was the most flowing combat anybody of us had ever seen. But in 2023, which is when I initially reviewed this, not so much. But for now, I'm going to just sign off because I'm out of things to talk about. There's really not much for me to talk about. I could talk about how Quincy Sharp is a bit of an arrogant dumbass, but that I can talk about more in City because his arrogance is on full fucking display in City. Like, spoilers, Sharp will work with Hugo Strange. That says all it needs to, methinks. The problem the problem with talking about Arkham Asylum is I could talk about different elements, but I've really already hit all of my beats. But you know what? For posterity's sake, let's just go ahead and double check my notes. Oh, I didn't really talk about. I guess I didn't really talk about the free flow combat, but honestly, the combat, I think I would rather kind of talk about that. I guess I could talk about that. Yeah. I love the options in the stealth gameplay. Detective mode is cool. Uh, Batman's got a frickin' Bat Cave on Arkham Island because of course he does. I didn't like the sewer pumps section, and while I don't hate him as much as other people do, Titan Joker was just kind of eh. Honestly, Arkham Asylum is a good game. I do recommend playing it. But the thing is that while I do feel it warrants a playthrough, it's not one you have to go out of your way to continuously play. Because the real money, in my opinion, is in Arkham City. It's not really a shame, though, because this is still a good game. Because good games are good games, regardless of age, really. And Arkham Asylum proves it. This game is 15 years old at this point, from the point I'm recording this. 15 years old, and it's still fun to play. Kind of ironic, right? Then again, there's a game that's about as old, that's roughly as old as I am, and it's still fun to play even 35 years later. But of course, that will be discussed at the end of this second season of Wolf's Den. I hope you've enjoyed my thoughts, minimalistic and unsurprising as they were, and I apologize for not really talking about the combat. It's a flowing combat counter system. Like how does nobody know what the Arkham gameplay is like, right? But I do apologize because yeah, I get it. I didn't really say much, but then again, like I said, there's like a shit ton of people that have discussed this game at length. Hell, I'll even link you an even better discussion of this game in the description below. Oh, because you know, I'm kind of a copycat of somebody who's done this game better, which is funny because I made a gag out of that back in the first season with Soten with Symphony of the Night. Right? Where it was like, oh hey, and where it was like, oh hey, yeah, there's not much I can say extra, so I'll just point you to the lore runner. Now, granted, I had more to say about Soten because I actually had some, opinions on different things in Soten, but here I've just got nothing. Arkham Asylum's a good game. Go play it. Sorry for my minimalistic thoughts, and sorry for this not so great episode, great video. So next up, I need to figure out what game I'm going to be slotting in next. I think I'll go ahead and talk about what I like to call Tales of Racism Overload. I swear that will make more sense next week. Until then, Blue Wolf Alex the Lore Walker signing out. Have a good one. Later.